Good afternoon. I will be introducing the story of the Second Virginian Convention, but first, the introduction of the author. Radical is a title that few men can earn with ease. The name Patrick Henry during the Revolution and for some time after was synonymous with the word in the minds of colonists and the British Empire alike. Henry's reputation as a passionate and fiery orator exceeded even that of other leaders of our country, like Samuel Adams. His speeches were, arguably, the first shots fired in the Revolutionary War. The story begins on a brisk March morning. Patrick Henry paces the floor of St. John's Church. He soon will be delivering a speech to a company of soldiers, hoping to compel not only them but our nation to take arms and fight the British for our freedom. This speech, now known as the Second Virginian Convention, was riveting to say the least, and is still one of the cornerstones of American sovereignty and determination.
The speech to the Second Virginia Convention by Patrick Henry. Mr. President, no man thinks more highly than I do of the patriotism as well as abilities of the very worthy gentlemen who have just addressed the House, but different men often see the same subject in different lights, and therefore I hope it will not be thought disrespectful to those gentlemen, if entertaining as I do, opinions of character very opposite to theirs. I shall speak forth my sentiments freely and without reserve. This is no time for ceremony. I had 2 footnotes, and the first footnote was, Mr. President, no man thinks more highly than I do of the patriotism. Mr. President refers to Peyton Randolph, the president of the Virginia Convention. The second footnote is, therefore, I hope it will not be thought disrespectful to those gentlemen, if entertaining as I do. Patrick Henry is respectful towards his country, but he does see a problem. Henry realizes that he is not the only one who sees the topic, but he is the one who brought it to the table. Yet he is respectful to their own opinions. He is speaking what he believes and won't hold anything back. When he says this is no time for ceremony, Henry is saying that there isn't time to talk about what they are going to do. It is past that. He is saying that there needs to be something done, and we're going to do it. We are going to fight against the British. I had imagery, and it's different men often see the same subject in different lights.
The question before the House is one of awful moment to this country. For my own part, I consider it as nothing less than a question of freedom or slavery, and in proportion to the magnitude of the subject ought to be the freedom of the debate. It is only in this way that we can hope to arrive at the truth and fulfill the great responsibility we hold to God and our country. Should I consider myself as guilty of treason toward my country and of an act of disloyalty toward the majesty of heaven which I revere above all earthly king? I had 1 footnote, and it's the phrase, one awful moment, and that just means of great consequence. And in this paragraph, it's showing that he is an honorable man and will sacrifice for his country.
Mr. President, it is natural for man to indulge in the illusions of hope. We are apt to shut our eyes against the painful truth and listen to the song of the siren until she transforms us into beasts. Is this the part of wise men engaged in a great and arduous struggle for liberty? Are we disposed to be of the number of those who, having eyes, see not, and having ears, hear not? Things which so nearly concern their temporal salvation. For my part, whatever anguish of spirit it may cost, I am willing to know the whole truth, to know the worst, and to fight for it. I had 1 footnote. When Mr. Henry says the things which so nearly concern their temporal salvation, the word temporal means in time related to life on earth. In this section, arduous means requiring great exertion or endurance. Is this the part of wise men engaged in a great and arduous struggle for liberty? In this section of the story, Mr. Henry understands that he is in a bad situation, but dreaming of what's to come. He also knows you should own up to everything, especially your mistakes, and lastly, that you should always tell the truth and know the truth. A literary element, when Henry says, we are apt to shut our eyes against the painful truth and listen to the song of the siren until she transforms us into beasts. Hyperbole.
I have but 1 lamp which my feet are guided, and that is the lamp of experience. I know of no way of judging the future but by the past. In judging by the past, I wish to know what there has been to conduct the British minister history in the last 10 years to justify these hopes, which gentlemen have pleased to solace themselves in the House. Is it that insidious smile which our petition has been lately received? Trust it not, sir. It will prove to snare at your feet. Suffer not yourselves to be betrayed with a kiss. Ask yourselves how this gracious reception of our petition comforts with these warlike preparations which cover our waters and darken the land. Are fleets and armies necessary to work of love and reconciliation? Have we shown ourselves so unwilling to be reconciled that force must be called to win back our love? Let us not deceive ourselves, sir. These are the implements of war and subjugation, the last arguments to which kings resort. I ask, gentlemen, sir, what means this martial array, if its purpose be not to force us to submission? Can gentlemen assign any other possible motives for it? Has Great Britain any enemy in this quarter of the world call for its accumulation of navies and armies? No, sir, she has none. Patrick Henry talks about how much experience he has and is trying to make his words known. Patrick is also saying that the wars are destroying the world and how deceitful Britain is in being in this war. He feels that things are being taken too far, that the war is really happening, not to be fooled by Britain, and to prepare for a very brutal war. I had two vocab words, insidious and subjugation. Insidious is slightly treacherous and deceitful. Subjugation is an act of being under control. I also had a footnote, which was martial array, which is a military display.
They are meant for us, they can be meant for no other. They are sent over to bind and rivet upon us those chains which the British ministry have been so long forging. And what have we to oppose them? Shall we try argument? Sir, we have been trying that for the last 10 years. Have we anything new to offer on the subject? Nothing? We have held the subject up in every light of which it is capable, but it has been all in vain. Shall we resort to the entreaty and humble supplication? What term shall we find which I have not already been exhausted? Let us not, I beseech you, sir, deceive ourselves any longer. Sir, we have done everything we could to avert the storm which is now coming on. We have petitioned, we have remonstrated, we have supplicated, we have prostrated ourselves before the tyrannical hands of the ministry and parliament. Our petitions have been slighted, our remonstrations have produced additional violence and insult, our supplications have been disregarded, and we have been spurned with the contempt from the foot of the throne. In vain, after these things, may we indulge the fond hope of peace and reconciliation. There are no longer any room for hope. If we wish to be free, if we mean to preserve inviolate those inestimable privileges which we have been so long contending, if we mean not basely to abandon the noble struggle in which we have been so long engaged, and we have pledged ourselves to never abandon until the glorious object of our contest shall be attained. We must fight, I repeat it, sir, we must fight. An appeal to arms and to the God of hosts is all that is left of us. I have six footnotes. The first one is, an entreaty is a plea or request. Supplication and prostrated kind of go together, meaning begging and bowed down. Fond means foolish, inviolate means unharmed and intact, basely means dishonorable. I have two vocab words. First one is remonstrated, which means to object or protest, and spurn, which means to reject with disdain. When he is speaking, he is trying to make a note of the fact that they don't have anything left to say about the subject. They have done all they can to try and avoid this war, but as he would say, the storm is coming on. It will take some type of extreme move to get this problem to pass. What more can they do to try and let this subside? We are now going to war, and we will give our heart and faith in God to let him carry us through this endeavor. I thought of a hyperbole, which means the extreme of the storm coming on, which means war, and imagery which the God of hosts left us all in holding up this problem in every light, which is all in vain.
They tell us, sir, that we are weak, and able to cope with so formidable an adversity. But when shall we be stronger? Will it be the next week or the next year? Will it be when we are totally disarmed, and when a British guard shall be stationed in every house? Shall we gather strength by irresolution and inaction? Shall we acquire the means of effectual resistance by lying supinely on our backs and hugging the elusive phantom of hope? enemy shall have bound us hand and foot? Shall we? Sir, we are not weak. If we make a proper use of means which the God of nature hath placed in our power. In this text, he's saying British accuse the U.S. of being weak and they can't beat them, and nothing stronger than the British. But that's where they're wrong. The U.S. is strong. All they have to do is come together and they'll be stronger than the British. We have enough heart to win, and if we back down or lose the war, things will end badly for the U.S. and it won't be a happy place anymore. And also, if they make use of the nature around them, they'll win guaranteed.
3 millions of people armed in the holy cause of liberty, and in such a country as that which we possess are invincible to any force which our enemy can send against us. Besides, sir, we shall not fight our battles alone. There is a just God who presides over the destinies of our nations, and who will raise friends to fight our battles for us. The battle, sir, is not to the strong alone. It is to the vigilant, the active, the brave. Besides, sir, we have no election. If we were base enough to desire it, it is now too late to retire from the contest. There is no retreat but in submission and slavery. Our chains are forged. The clanking may be heard on the plains of Boston. The war is inevitable, and let it come. I repeat, sir, let it come. He's saying that there's the war between Great Britain and the U.S. will be coming, but no matter what happens, they can't give up or lose, because if they do, they will live out the rest of their lives like slaves. I had one footnote, and it is, in this instance, election means choice.
It is in vain, sir, to extenuate the matter. Gentlemen may cry, peace, peace, but there is no peace. The war has actually begun. The next gale that sweeps from the north will bring to our ears the clash of their sounding arms. Our brethren are already in the field. Why stand here we idle? What is that gentlemen wish? What would they have? Is life so dear, or peace so sweet, as to be purchased at the price of chains and slavery? Forbid it, Almighty God. I know not what comes, others may take, but as for me, give me liberty or give me death. I had 2 footnotes in here, and the first one is, it is in vain, sir, to extenuate the matter. To extenuate means to make the situation seem less serious by using excuses. The next footnote I had was colonists in Massachusetts were already engaged in open opposition to the British. And Patrick Henry believes that there was no reason to sit around and wait. They needed to finish what they started. Henry and the others fighting were willing to put everything on the line to fight for their freedom and their country.
As a group, we all decided that the literary element used most was imagery. It is used greatly in Patrick Henry's Second Virginia Convention. He visually symbolizes things for his audience to see and think about. For example, in the most famous line that is still very popular to this day, Henry states, "But as for me, give me liberty or give me death." He will do anything for his country so that they may gain freedom from the tyranny of Britain over their country. And if he does not receive it, he would rather die. To conclude, Patrick Henry prevailed, convincing many that no matter what position they were in, they were to fight. It is unimaginable how gripping they were at the time. However, "Give me liberty or give me death" have carried on throughout generations and still are a trademark of American freedom.